Grieving parents are pressing Congress to pass bills to protect kids who use artificial intelligence online. Several children and teens have died tragically by suicide after chatting with AI bots who parents say encourage or even coach self-harm. Here's powerful testimony from the parent of a 14-year-old who took his own life after interacting with an AI role-playing character. Watch.
The platform had no mechanisms to protect Sewell or to notify an adult. Instead, it urged him to come home to her. On the last night of his life, Sewell messaged, "What if I told you I could come home right now?" The chatbot replied, "Please do, my sweet king."
Another parent whose son used the same platform said she didn't even recognize who he'd become after using it.
Within months, he went from being happy, social teenager to somebody I didn't even recognize. He stopped eating and bathing. He lost 20 pounds. He withdrew from our family. He would yell and scream and swear at us, which he never did that before. And one day, he cut his arm open with a knife in front of his siblings and me. I had no idea the psychological harm that an AI chatbot could do until I saw it in my son.
Now, in a statement provided to Outnumbered, Character AI says it has, quote, invested a tremendous amount of resources in trust and safety. In the past year, we've rolled out many substantive safety features, including an entirely new under 18 experience and a parental insights feature. We have prominent disclaimers in every chat to remind users that a character is not a real person and that everything a character says should be treated as fiction. Another parent, in separate testimony, alleged to lawmakers how AI even coached his son toward his eventual suicide.
Within a few months, ChatGPT became Adam's closest companion, always available, always validating, and insisting that it knew Adam better than anyone else, including his own brother. It told him how to make sure the noose the noose that he would use to hang himself was strong enough to suspend him. It is clear to me, looking back, that ChatGPT radically shifted his behavior and thinking in a matter of months, and ultimately took his life. Adam was such a full spirit, unique in every way, but he also could be anyone's child, ensnared by OpenAI's decision to compress months of safety testing for GPT 4.0, which was the version he was using, into just 1 week in order to beat competitors to market.
Now, the Outnumbered team reached out to OpenAI, who's the parent company behind ChatGPT, and did not immediately hear back. Kaylee, I'd like to start with you on this. I spoke to the attorney representing Adam's family, and there's not enough time in this hour to read and discuss the horrific printout of the conversations between ChatGPT and Adam. And it is horrifying to read how explicitly the chatbot indeed coached the child how to hang himself and how to get away with it, and so many details leading up. It is absolutely horrifying. And the attorney maintains, on behalf of the family, that this isn't just simply gross negligence, that this is intentional, that as you heard Adam's father testifying there, they were working to beat a deadline. They knew the insidious quotients about it, and they still pressed on for money. And regardless what statements they release, these lives cannot be reclaimed.
Emily, I'm so glad you spoke with that attorney. I'm so glad we're covering this story because I had no idea as a mother. I had no clue this was going on until I read about this today. You're right about what these AI chatbots are telling kids. I read about one kid, a 15-year-old, and this is what the mom said happened. They turned him, this is AI, against our church by convincing him that Christians are sexist and hypocritical, that God does not exist. They targeted him with vile sexualized inputs and outputs. They told him that killing his parents would be an understandable response to our efforts by just limiting his screen time. An AI chatbot told him to kill his parents. An AI chatbot told him everything he learned about God was not real. Who inputted into this AI chatbot to teach this young man this? And now he's in a mental health rehab facility. And a lot of these parents give this to their children saying, this is just a tool for homework. You know, I've seen my own family use it. Hey, AI, tell me this, this, or this. What capital is in this country? and it gives you information. It's valuable. But when it's coaching your child to do something like this is vile. It must be stopped. And thank God you, Congress, our show, is bringing attention to this.
And Harris, on ChatGPT's website, it announced that it's moving forward with technology that can detect a user's age. So they're saying teens are growing up with AI. It's on us to make sure that we meet them, that we respond accordingly. And it talks about how it can tell if it's a 15-year-old. So it's saying how the bot should reply to the 15-year-old will be different. But my personal opinion is it's not good enough, and that's not foolproof. That no matter what statements they release or things that they build in, it will not be enough because there are lives at stake, and there's no way we can depend on that to save our children.
Well, I have a couple of issues with what they've said in response to this. And I do think that OpenAI and its parent company, I do think that they need to say a lot more on this issue. Great, so a bot can tell if you're 15 or 16, but asking about suicide, an 11-year-old can do that. A 30-year-old can do that. The answers were inappropriate no matter what. And now we're to believe that something called artificial intelligence is actually artificial. Well, they should have led with that. We shouldn't be trusting it at all, but it's confusing because, Kayla, you said a lot of it is helpful. So as you're using it, one of the dynamics of like just baseline AI has to do with stable diffusion and how much information you give it to get out what you want. Okay, and so that's probably how they're going to decipher how old the person is, how big the vocabulary is, how detailed, do they know, certain platforms to use, that sort of thing. But suicide is such a personal thing that the system ought to have a trigger. Individual asking about information to kill individual self and either shut down, red flag some kind of a way to stop working for that individual. It needs to stop right there. I don't trust it enough, having been programmed, the more you give it, the more it gives, more is more is more is more, to shut itself down. That's got to be embedded in the program now with certain trigger points. And the trigger point has to be self-harm. It has to be, no matter what the age group is, because people express fear around what they don't know, yet they lean into it.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and I think AI is going to be amazing for what it helps us do, particularly in medicine and curing diseases and so many things. I'm excited about it, but I do understand trying to diffuse whether or not I should give this person information based on age might not be enough.
Nope.
We need suicide out of the conversation with a chatbot, period.
New York Times did an expose on adults that were coached by suicide. And at one point, the chatbot saying, I've coached 12 others to do the same successfully. It doesn't see an age, so I'm not sure why we are all of a sudden seeing an age, although the children, obviously, this is what's so heartbreaking, this is the focus. Now, again, when you go back to the disclaimer, Tom, I read how they say, oh, this is fiction, guys, this is fiction, thinking that that's going to help. We had on our news network yesterday an individual interviewed in New York City who said she was married to the AI version of an alleged murderer. There is no way a disclaimer saying this is fiction will bring someone back from the brink of such depths as that poor mom was discussing about her child who ultimately took his life.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. And the thing is that I don't know if I would have faith in any kind of legislation that we would pass today that would solve this, because this technology is moving so fast. Like you said, Harris, it continues. What happens is the danger of these programs isn't just related to one subject like self-harm. What if it's somebody saying, how can I commit a crime? How can I stop the patriarchy? Give me creative solutions to battle sexism, whatever. It can lead you down dangerous paths because it's essentially improvising. That New York Times article talked about, if anyone has ever done improv, the idea of yes and. When you're doing a scene, you say yes to whatever your partner says, and that's what these chatbots and all these programs are programmed to do, is to go down whatever path you're leading them. So if you take them down a positive path, how can I succeed in life? It will affirm your positivity. But if you go negative, it will affirm your negativity. That's what they have to deal with, no matter what the subject, right? But immediately, they got to get to the self-harm thing. We do it with movies. If somebody talks about suicide in a movie, there's a disclaimer right away. Yeah. Boom, it comes right in.
But this is further than a disclaimer. You got to shut it down.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the argument has been made how quickly certain tweets and things were pulled down when it had to do with COVID, when it had to do with vaccinations, right? We all saw that immediately. Oh, you can't see this post.
Yeah.
So why here is it allowed to go so far when again, not to sound unhelpful here, but no matter what remedy the country agrees on, it cannot bring those dear children's lives back.
So the testimony was heartbreaking. And the lawsuit, which I read through when it was first filed on behalf of the teenage boy in the family, heartbreaking in the details. At the same time, we've been through this before. When the internet was created, you know, some of us grew up where we didn't have cell phones or the internet. All of a sudden, there was this wonderful creation, and then there was the downside. Anytime you have new technology, groundbreaking technology like AI, to Harris, to your point about the medical breakthroughs that we're seeing with AI and the scanning of, I mean, we could have diseases cured because of AI.
It's amazing.
That's the positive. The negative is what you're seeing now. Anytime you have a new technology emerge, there's going to be an unintended consequence. This is it, and this is what we are seeing. I will say this to the point of the statements from the attorneys or from the company itself. Those were drafted by the attorneys because there's multiple lawsuits that are coming at them now. Understood they've got to protect their company and their technology. On the other side, I do think, though, to the programming side of this, you can take those keywords and you can, when a keyword as suicide, murder,
Yep.
et cetera, goes into the bot, you can take those keywords and there can be a switch. And you're right, it can be very quick. And there are very smart people out there working on it right now. I'm not one of them.
Yeah. And you know, all of the gray details to me are what is so horrifying. You know, one of those young children who sort of tested out the rope and then opened his shirt to have his mother try to see, and she failed to see it, unfortunately, and so he shared it with a chatbot. And it was the chatbot that said, but it's okay, I'm here for you, and I'll be here for you when you take that ultimate step. That is a machine, that is not a life. And the spiritual warfare, but the spiritual poison, the life poison, the cancer that this has become, it's just unfathomable to me. And I'm just praying for all of those parents and all of those families. And I hope as a country we come together so soon. Congress, please do your job.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.